Okay, so I've just ripped all the footage from my phone and uploaded it onto a memory stick. You can see there I've got a Toshiba 128GB memory stick. It's the higher the memory, the longer you have to go before you buy a new one. So I'm putting all the footage that I'm going to use, all the ripped DVD footage and all the footage of me that I've shot, all in this one file here. The ruling class, obviously named them all after the films that I'm reviewing or the TV shows, and so it's just easy to find all in one place. But as you can see, it's all it all comes out these long laborious numbers as file names when you put it in there. So now I've got the long laborious task of going through them all, going through the footage now and seeing which one was it. Which is this? 1A. Oh, well, this is easy. So I've just said 1A there, so this must be my starting point. I'll rename that 1. So I'm going to go through it all now, rename it. It just makes it easy in editing purposes, just to know, okay, when you can see it all laid out, it gives you a better through line, rather than if you just went straight in with these sorts of file names. You'd be endlessly searching through the footage trying to find the appropriate bit. Also, you'll see here, like, I've got 6 and 6A. 6A is just the cutaway shot. So I renamed them all A. They're essentially the same footage, but from a different angle. 11A, 12A. So, the next part of the process now is ripping the DVD footage. I try and rip footage from the DVD, 2 reasons. I used to collect all the footage I use from YouTube, but I like to rip the DVD footage now, which took me a while to figure out how to do. Because 2 reasons. One, it's a lot crisper and cleaner, the footage. It just looks better in the review. And 2, you can rip the entire film, so you've got the entirety of the film to play with. So if you're wondering how you rip footage from a DVD, I'll show you now. It's remarkably simple, actually. That's if you've still got a disk drive on your laptop. I know a lot of modern computers and laptops don't come with disk drives installed. You have to buy external ones, and they don't always work. They're not very good, the external ones you have to buy. But if you look here, most people have on their PC or laptop, they have VLC media, which just brings it up here. It's just bringing up the film. There it is. Now, what I used to do is I used to record the whole film and edit from that. I don't do that now. For the reason is, it's quite frustrating, and this is where something that YouTube has over ripping the DVD footage, which is that you can't rip the image and the sound as one file. You have to rip them separately and then edit them back together. If you rip the whole film, for some reason the audio tends to be shorter than the image. So if you rip the whole film, when you get into the later scenes of the film, especially in a 2.5 hour movie like this, you're forever having to sort of resync the audio with the image, and it can be very frustrating to do. So I now record the film in installments because it's a lot easier to sync up the image. And a good guide to how short you should make these little installments is actually the chapter feature on the DVD. So let's just bring up the chapter menu here. So we have 23 chapters for this film. So how do you rip footage? Okay, very simple. On VLC media, you'll see at the top, in the top bar here, you have one called View. Just click on that and go down to Advanced Controls. Click that, and then you'll see this extra bar come up here at the bottom. And this is the button you want here, the record button. I'm going to record the first chapter, so knowing where that ends roughly, it's you have to play the second chapter or the next chapter along first. So let's just bring up chapter 2. Okay, so you can see here chapter 2 starts at 8 minutes. So I'm going to record the first 8 minutes of the film. So very simple, you just go back to the start and you press record. Okay, so that's the start of the second chapter. So then you just stop recording, stop the film. Now that will have recorded just the imagery, but it'll only exist now as a VLC media file. So you've got to convert it to an MP4. You can edit straight from the VLC media file, but it generally comes out a bit jerky. So if you want a nice clean image, you've got to then convert what you've just recorded. So to do that, you open up Media and go down to Convert Save. It brings up this little box, and you go to Add, and it should bring up what you've just recorded. So it'll usually be stored in here, at least it is on my PC, in the videos file. If you go down to the bottom here, so you can see this is all the other stuff I've got in here for my editing purposes. Big Brother Shorts, old film overlay, Snow for Christmas videos. These are files probably from the last video I made. God knows what they are, but I'll delete both of those. So you select that and you go to Open, and then you go to Convert Save. So first of all, you want to convert it into an MP4 file. So that's just the top one here, MP4, and then you need to put it in a location. So obviously I'm going to put this in my ruling class file where I'll keep all my footage, and I'm going to call this file Film 1. So I know that that's the first chapter of the film. You just click on Save and Start, and you can see at the bottom here it's converting it now. Unfortunately, it takes the length of the actual clip that you've just recorded to convert the imagery, and then you've got to convert the audio as well. And to do the audio, it's exactly the same. Go back to Convert Save. Your file's still in there. Click Convert Save, and you want to convert your audio into an MP3 file, which is this one here, Audio MP3. Again, browse. I want to put it all in the same place, so back to the ruling class folder, and call this one Film 1 Audio. Click Save, Start. And you'll see, because it's just audio, this renders a lot quicker. Already on 1 minute now, so it's not like rendering the image. You just have to wait for the bar to go straight across, and there you go. So now if you bring up the file where you've just saved them to, they should both be in here. There you go, Film 1, Film 2. So you bring up the first one. There you go, there's what we've just recorded. If you play the audio, there's the audio from the film. So that's it. So all that remains is to render the rest of the film. Okay, so starting a new editing project. I use Adobe Premiere Pro. So you see here we go to New Project. So first I've got to save it to the correct location. So of course it's all going in the ruling class file. So I'll select that folder. I title it, so obviously this is going to be called the ruling class, it being the film that I'm reviewing. Then you just click OK. Then you go into Settings. I set my frame rate to 23.976 frames per second, because that's the speed of actual film, actual celluloid. And then this is the important one that every YouTuber should remember. Your frame size has got to be 1920 by 1080. That way it will fit the entire screen. Most people's screens are on that ratio, so that's the important numbers to remember when you're editing or doing a YouTube channel. 1920 by 1080, that's the size you want to have your video. You can name your sequence, but I never do, because there's no point. Then you just click OK, and it should bring up the project template now. This is the window where your source goes in. That's what you edit, so that's where you will watch everything you've edited so far, and you'll watch your finished projects in here. And this is your timeline. This is where you'll edit from. So if you want to scoot to a different bit of the video, you just drag the cursor through this. You'll see what I mean when I put it all in there. So first off, you've got to transfer all your footage that you want to edit from. So that's all the footage of me and the footage of the film itself and the trailer. That's all going to be transferred into 80 files. That's all going to be transferred into here. It takes a while to transfer. There we go. And I'll just quickly transfer the trailer over as well. Right, I think we're ready to start. I always like to listen on my headphones, just because the sound's not very loud on my laptop. It's important to, when you make these things, to sort of put yourself in the seat of the viewer who might be watching this for the first time as much as possible. So I always start with the trailer, which I've just watched. It's just my little gimmick. So I never usually play the whole trailer. I usually just tend to play a little bit, and I thought a nice little neat bit to play for this would be the bit where he jumps off from the cross. So to edit a clip, you want your in point. That's the point where you want the clip to start. You click there, and I'm just going to let this play to the end. But if I was going to do an out point, it's just that one, the mark out point. So then all you do is you drag the video down there. You can do insert, and it'll just place it there as well. Essentially does the same thing. Now there's no audio, so I've gone from 5504 there. So I've got the trailer audio in a separate file here. So if you click on that, drag that over so you can get intricate, and go to, so what was it, 5504. Well, 5504, it doesn't matter if you frame out, really, it still syncs up pretty well. There you go, 5504, and again mark in, and this time you drag the audio down to here, and you'll see this little yellow line here. That means that the audio's going, if you play it, you know, it's quite audible, but we can get it better, we can get it punchier than that. So I tend to drag that up as far as it will go. If you play the audio now, slightly louder. Now I was thinking I might bring myself in talking, still with the music, the anthemic music playing underneath. But I think with this one, it might work better with me coming in right as the music finishes, which is sort of, you actually see it's about there. So let's see what that looks like. Again, you can chop these off with a razor blade, but you can just drag them up, drag them back. Let's see what it looks like with me coming in here. Okay, I've just looked through the footage of me from the one file, I think the third take's definitely the one. The third take is usually the best. It's usually the one where I've got comfortable with the words. I'm not stumbling over them as much. So I'm going to go. So take number 3 starts here at 7:39. So again, I'm just going to mark in. I'm not going to mark out again. I'm just going to drag all this down and play with it. Now I could go and just insert it and it will appear here in the timeline, but I like to drag the video and the audio separately. So we'll just drag this down and I appear in there. It's formatted properly, so I don't have to scale it to frame size. Drag my audio down there, and again I'll just punch it up as high as it can go. It's just more attention grabbing for an audience, the louder the audio I find. So let's see how that looks. Hello YouTubers, welcome to Big Buddha is Watching. I'm Big Buddha. And yeah, not bad, not bad. I thought I might have to tighten that up by a few frames, but I think I can live with that. Right, a quick music tutorial for you now. So I've just cut together the plot synopsis for the film, and what I usually do, it's my sort of little style, is over the plot synopsis I usually play a bit of music. I'm not one of these ones that make a YouTube video and have music playing throughout. Some are like that, but I tend to find the music a bit obtrusive. But as I usually find relaying the plot to be the most uninteresting part of any film analysis video, to make mine a little bit interesting, that's where I play music in. If the music's too overpowering and drowns out the voice, it's not doing its job. It should be background, barely noticeable. So I want the music to come in here at this point, where I start talking about the plot. You'll see here I say, so the plot of the film. So that's where I want the music to come in. Now the music I've chosen is the great theme for the film, which luckily plays over the end credits, which means that I don't have to source it from anywhere else. I can just rip it straight from the end credits. It's not encumbered by the soundtrack for the film, dialogue, people talking over the music. It's just a pure piece of music that I've got here. This line here is my dialogue. I'm going to move that down a bar. I'll show you why in a second. Just to there. And we're going to layer in the music here, which I brought up here so you can hear. This is the end of the music. Okay, and I'm going to actually, because that becomes to an abrupt end, I think that would be an ideal place for the music to end when I finish talking. So I'm actually going to just mark out at the end and then just get about a second of it, and I'm going to go to right to where I finish talking, which is round about here, and I'm going to drag it down just this 1 second of audio. Then I'm going to drag it all over my dialogue. So right from where I made that edit, where I dragged my audio, there it is there.
Believes himself to be Jesus Christ. The family hatch a plan to get Jack to Siren Air and commit him to a mental institution.
Now, if you can hear that there, that's way too loud. So what you need to do here is bring the volume of the music down as low as it can go, i.e. so it's barely audible, so any lower and it would be silent. That's literally as low as you've got to take it here. So that's down to the bottom, and usually it's about 2 up from the bottom. So let's try and get that. And it's very tricksy to do, especially, let's try, can you even hear that?
Leaving the estate in their hands.
There, you can just about hear it. So let's see how that's that plays, because it does crescendo a bit, so it might still drown me out even at this level later on.
Institution, charging them with the custody of Jack's child and effectively leaving the estate in their hands until the child comes of age. The family patriarch, Sir Charles, has his mistress seduce Jack by pretending to be the fictional character Marguerite Gautier from the opera La Traviata. Things go according to plan.
Yeah, no, that's pretty good. That's where the piano comes in, which I thought would be the intrusive bit. I think the choir kicks in, so that might dry me out a bit. But I can still hear me just fine. I can hear the music, but it's not intrusive. It's barely noticeable. So that's just what I wanted. Okay, I'm going to do a screenshot here. Just to show you how you edit in how you do a screenshot and how you edit in just a still image into your production. So I want it to go over this bit here.
Television serial. And we also get Kay Walsh and Patsy Byrne. Yes, Bernard herself.
So it's where I say yes, Bernard herself. I'm going to put up a picture of Nursey from Blackadder. For fans that know, Nursey's real name is Bernard. So it's when I say Bernard, which is there. Now, like when you rip DVD footage, I find you can get a much clearer image if you do a screenshot from a DVD. Unfortunately, I can't find my Blackadder DVD box set. I did have one once. I don't know where it is. And if anyone out there is watching who knows me and I lent you that Blackadder box set, could I please have it back, because it's one of my most prized possessions, as you can imagine. And rather frustratingly, they've taken it off Netflix as well. So I found footage of Nursey on YouTube, so I'm going to do a screenshot from YouTube. I think it's pretty much as good a quality image as you can get on YouTube. It's not always guaranteed. It can sometimes look a bit grainy, but it's got the BBC logo in the corner here, as you can see. So that's usually a good sign that it's the best quality image that you can get. And we're going to take screenshots now, so I'll just cycle back. Now, it used to be that you had to press Control Alt and print screen to take a screenshot. You don't have to do that anymore now. Most PCs have been updated. Now all you have to do is press the screenshot button. So let's play. Wait for all this to disappear, because otherwise that will appear on the screenshot as well. So I'll take several. Shut up there, say. That's all it is. You bring up your documents. Oh, that's one. And you go to pictures. And there should be one in here called screenshots. There it is there. And there's the 3 files that I've just taken. So I'm just going to select all 3 of them and drag them over. If we bring them up in here, yeah, there's the screenshot of Patsy. So that's not a very good one. No, that's okay, not great. That's probably the best, but it's unfortunately could do with cropping. If I wanted to, I could go into Photoshop and crop that, so it's more on her face, because that's quite a funny expression she's got there. But as it's only for a literal sort of 1 second pop-up gag, I think this one will do just fine. So all you do is drag it down and put it over the footage. Now unfortunately it's got these sidebars as well. Yeah, I'm really not happy with this at all. I might go and tinker about with this on Photoshop, but for the purposes of this, that will do just fine for this little demonstration. So obviously it's blocking out the image, so I'm just going to make it a bit smaller. So I just click on it there and then drag it down, and then I'll put it over Kay Walsh's face, side by side with Patsy Byrne just to show that it is the same person. And let's see how that looks. See, it's all about the timing with the voice to make these little gags work.
And we also get Kay Walsh and Patsy Byrne, yes, Bernard herself, as two upstanding members of high society.
It's not great, but I mean, that's how you do it essentially. I'm going to tinker around with that and the editing, which you'll see how it came out if you watch the whole review.
And we also get Kay Walsh and Patsy Byrne, yes, Bernard herself, as two upstanding members of high society.
Okay, I'm annoyed. So, paragraph 17 hasn't recorded. I've got about 45 seconds of it, of what should have been a 10-minute take. It's because I was having problems on the night of recording with memory on the phone. I was having to delete stuff left, right and centre to create enough memory for it to record. But I didn't realise at the time, but I just haven't got paragraph 17. This is actually the first time that this has happened where I've come to edit something and I haven't got all the footage that I thought I had. And typically it's happened on the one where I'm making a making of video on. So basically, I now have three options open to me. Option one, I set everything up again and re-record paragraph 17. Option two is I cut the whole thing completely. And option three is actually I was recording on the secondary angle, which is here. I record the secondary angle on my partner's phone. Unfortunately, her phone doesn't have as much memory as mine does, so I managed to get about 7 minutes 27 seconds. Well, exactly 7 minutes 27 seconds. So I have got audio of me reading paragraph 17, which I could use. That's an option. The downside for using this is the audio isn't as good. There will be a marked difference in the audio, and also the angle's all wrong. So, and the annoying thing is that this was the most think piecey part of the video. This meant to be a lot of me looking directly into camera, very little clips. But I think what I'm going to do is I am going to do that. I'm going to edit this in. Because I'm a little worried that if I just excise the whole thing, then what I'm saying in paragraphs 18, 19, 20, 21 will seem a little out of left field. I think it'll look like I've excised something if I don't at least attempt to put something in. But I won't know really until I edit it all together and watch it back. And the other option is to re-record it once I've edited it all together. I think it really doesn't work. Right, I've gone for broke. So I've decided to use the single take as I would normally, one with black and white. I've made it look like what it is, which is an error. So I've added in a little comedy bit of static which I've sourced from YouTube.
Made all of a sudden.
I think doing that makes the change in audio more palatable if you treat it like a joke. Also, I've done an old film overlay here, and I've also desaturated the colours. I've never desaturated the colours. I've never gone that fancy on my videos before, but I quite like the effect actually. I think I'm going to look for excuses to do it again actually. I'm all for making stuff look vintage. So I've done I've played around with the footage on that because I figured I didn't want to just put the clean footage in over the black and white footage of me, because I thought if the footage of me is shoddy looking, the whole section's got to look shoddy looking on purpose. So if this has got to look like it's something that's caught on CCTV almost, then the source of the film can't be pristine as well when you edit that in. Over here, you'll see when I start talking about the film again, I'm talking about the Den Bone sequence. Look, you can see here I've really desaturated the colour, so it's almost but not quite black and white, like I've sourced it from some vintage prints that was made for the first screening of the film. So yeah, I basically covered my tracks here with a few little tricks and editing techniques, and hopefully the viewer watching will be so taken aback by the sudden jarring change in presentation that they won't question the fact well, I'm hoping they'll question the fact of why I'm doing it, but I'm hoping that they'll think that I want them to question the fact. I'm trying to dress it up as art, enigmatic art. What do they say? Necessity is the mother of invention. That's no truer than in this case here. Oh, all done. Well, not quite. I've finished the main body of the edit now, but still a few things to tie up, notably doing the titles. Now I do the titles a little differently, you'll see here. When most people make videos, if they import a clip from a different film and they want to say what the film is, they'll do something like this. They'll put the title of the film in, maybe the year. Most people just do that. I go a little bit further. I also credit the director and usually the production company. I try and credit the production company who actually were responsible for the creative process rather than the studio that distributed it. And I put these at the end. I think they're like it's an unusual way to do the credits up in the corner like this, but it's one of the few unique things that I do with my videos, but I like it. It's my own sort of individual touch. I'll just show you how you do a title on Premiere. So this is the image. I used to just play the credits over the background, and then I started doing screenshots of the actual film, so that when you get to the end of the video, if there was anything that I played in with and didn't even allude to it, say, which I kind of did with What's New Pussycat here, it's just interesting to go, oh, that's what that was. And I also, the other thing I do is I do them in alphabetical order, so that's why the ruling class is going right in the middle of the credits here. So how to do a credit: you simply go down to where your footage is, and you have to right click right at the bottom, and you'll get this little box come up here. You go down to New Item and over to Title, and you've got to have your cursor over the bit where you want to put the credits in, to make sure you get it in the right place. Like before, 1920 by 1080, Title 3. You can name your titles, but I don't bother. I think it's easy just to, if you only use a few titles, just to scroll through and see which ones you've used. You press OK, and then this box will come up here, and you'll see here it should be where you want to put your titles. So you'll see over in the corner here, I'll just drag this over, there's an arrow up here and a T. That's a T for text. Those are the two tools you want to use. So you just click on T, and then you click where you want your title to go. So I think I'm going to put it over her head. I used to, with the titles, when I just did the black backgrounds, I used to go corner to corner and then corner to corner and do it like that. But I find when I use the screenshots, there's just a naturally suggestive place for where the title you want for the title to go, and I think it naturally suggests itself for the title to go in the top left hand corner here. So I'll just click here. Now before I do that, I need to select my typeface, and I always use the typeface over here, Rockwell Extra Bold. The other thing I always do is I always use the colour red, and I always go for sort of somewhere in this area, that sort of red. So then when you've done that, you just click back in and you put in your caption. So the ruling class and the year the film came out, which is 1972. Then underneath I credit the director, who in this case was, of course, Peter Medak. I'm not sure that's how you pronounce his name. He's Hungarian. It's Medak. And finally, the production company. I usually have to double check on Wikipedia for this one. Distributed by United Artists and Embassy Pictures. I'm going to, because I've talked about this in the review, I'm going to put Avco Embassy. I know it's See, this is a difficult one, because on the one hand, United Artists were responsible for the production of the film, but then they largely disowned the film. So do I want to credit them? Now I'm going to stick with my knowledge of the film and put Avco Embassy, because they are the ones responsible for keeping this film alive and in the state that it's known today. Okay, now you'll see that that's a little big, so and it's kind of all over the place, and you need to play around with the sizes here. So you just go to your arrow up here. I'll just drag that one down slightly. So I'm just going to drag that over to the halfway point, and then that's a little small, so I'm going to drag that down by 10. Then you just have a final little play around with the spacing, and I think that looks pretty good. Yeah, just double check your spelling. I've spelt ruling right. Yes, Peter Medak, Avco Embassy. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So then all you do then is you close this, and then, like you would with any clip or still that you'd use, you drag that over to where you want to put it, which is here, and you want it just to go over this screenshot. So see how that plays. Pretty good. And then I've just got the Shining and What's New Pussycat to do, and then I'm done. I wish I was done. Still a few more things to tinker with, but we'll get onto them. Right, I've watched the final edit, and I'm just going through now and making a few trims here and there, just to tighten it up a little bit. When you watch the whole thing through, edited together, you just get more clarity about what works and what doesn't, what needs tightening, what can go, what can stay. One of the reasons my videos are so long is I do tend to punctuate each point 3 times. You know, I tend to use 3 sentences where one will do, like just then. And to be honest, going through this one, the trims that I'm going to make, I've pretty much known since I wrote the script what was going to end up going. You know, this section here about Caroline Seymour is a little long because I'm criticising her performance. I'm praising the others. I've noticed that I've spent just a little too long being critical on her performance, and to give balance, I feel I need to give equal weight to my negative view of her performance as opposed to my positive reviews of the other members of the cast. So I'm just taking out a little bit at the end. To be fair, when I wrote this, I knew I'd written one sentence too many, so it's just this section here. I'll play it.
Tragedy born out of deceit and misunderstanding.
Tragedy born out of deceit and misunderstanding. You can end it there. Here I really punctuate the same point. I mean, it's only about 10 seconds worth of footage, so it's not going to greatly affect the runtime. But to to cut stuff out when you've done your whole edit, you simply select the sections and delete them with the delete button. Then, because you've edited the whole thing, and this took me a while to figure out, if you just drag each individual section, you'll spend forever dragging everything you've edited over. It's like editing it again from scratch. So what you need to do is, instead of selecting this arrow, you go to this arrow to the right of it, and you see, if I select this now, then that will drag everything on this line over. You get a little indicator of where the correct edit points is when you drag it over, which is helpful. I'm going to cut that out. I'm going to tinker around with the audio on a few sections because I wasn't entirely happy with it. There's bits where my my audio is being drowned out by the sound of the film, so I'm going to tinker around a little with there. You can tinker with these things forever, but eventually you've got to just let it go. It's like your child. You've got to let it go out there in the world. They say no great work of art is ever finished, it's only ever abandoned. That's what it feels like making these videos sometimes. Okay, time to put this one to bed, I feel. So I've just watched it through, tightened it up. You can see here I've got it down to 1934, so I've only managed to take about 50 seconds out. I didn't take out as much as I thought I was going to, but I think it's fairly tight now and concise, and there's a good flow to it. I can't believe I didn't say anything about O'Toole's character arc in the film. You know, how essentially his schizophrenia is kind of an act of a rebellion against the ruling class, and then in the end he becomes part of the establishment, but he has to become the worst human being to become part of the establishment. I grant my audience with enough intelligence to pick up on that anyway, that's basically the point of the film. It's kind of the American Psycho Patrick Bateman thing, you know, having a central character be a serial killer as a kind of satire on the world you're trying to satirise. You know, I think the review works best when I'm just sort of highlighting the moments of the film, but my overall summation I'm not entirely happy with. It is what it is, you know. At this point it's got to be what it's got to be. So once your project is complete, you've got to then export it. That means basically you've got to create your video as a file. Your video doesn't actually exist whilst it's in Premiere. This is just basically a bunch of cues, a bunch of editing cues. So the way you export a video, the way you actually create a video once you're happy with it and you've edited it all together, is you go into File, Export, and Media. You want to make sure that you've got this preset right, which is YouTube. I put it to YouTube widescreen HD, high definition. So obviously I want to put this into my ruling class file along with all my other footage. To do that, you click on the sequence name and it'll bring up all your documents. I've already clicked on the ruling class. I'm going to save this now. I'm going to name it what I'm going to name the actual video. You'll see why when I upload the video to YouTube. So we'll call it the ruling class. I always give the year of the film in the review, and I always say review and the name of the reviewer, Big Buddha. The star rating I will do at the end. I think I'm going to give this one 4.5 out of 5, but I have to do that on the phone because you can't do stars on here. I used to do them like this, which looks kind of naff. It doesn't really look like stars, but You can look. You can go in and alter these things onto YouTube directly from your phone, and it looks better when you use the stars that are on the phone. Unfortunately, there isn't a facility to do that on the keyboard. Save and export. You get this little box here, and you see it's on 0% now. A 20-minute video will probably take about 2.5 hours to render, so it's just time for me to go and put my feet up for 2.5 hours, and once that's done, then it's the thumbnail.